So like and subscribe if you want to. In the midst of free agency, John Wall says he wants out of Washington. Some things that have happened recently, it said that John Wall was surprised that the Wizards GM says they're building around Bradley Beal. There was talk about John Wall for Westbrook, and now John Wall has said he wants out. Maybe this was a developing thing, maybe it all just really happened in the last couple of days, I don't know. Wall claims that he is good to go and healthy, but I mean, it's been 3 years since he's been really good. 2 significant lower body injuries, and of course his contract is massive. It is 3 years, starts out at $40 million, ends at $46.8 million. We assume he is not going to decline that option in 2023. So is John Wall actually going to get traded? I mean, there's a chance he won't because there just might not be a single suitor. Maybe Houston is. I mean, clearly there's been some talk between them and the Wizards about Wall for Westbrook. I mean, I think the Rockets would view that move as they're giving up the better player, which I would agree with. And as a result, they're going to want some assets from the Wizards. Whether the Wizards are going to be okay with that one, not really sure. There's a chance the Wizards might be forced to just try to mend this relationship as much as they can, because with just how difficult it's going to be to move Wall, given his age, contract, and injury stuff, you'd prefer if he was enjoying his time in Washington because you just can't get him out of there. So we'll see how that all plays out. We'll see if Bradley Beal is affected by this in some sort of way. I mean, it seems like Beal is really committed to the Wizards, at least for right now. I don't know how that's going to be if we extend a year out or whatever, but in the moment, he seems like he really wants to figure it out in Washington. Anyway, if you want to speculate on potential John Wall trades, for one, I wish you good luck, but I'm going to attempt to do it. I mean, would the Clippers be the one desperate team who could actually think of going for John Wall? Potentially. I mean, according to TradeNBA.com, which is apparently the best trade machine website, Zubats, Pat Bev, and Lou Will combined for John Wall actually works. And I think the Clippers might even be able to still make it work if they included a contract that was slightly smaller than Zubats', maybe Rodney Magruder or something. But is that even a good move for the Clippers? I mean, it's a swing for the fence on a guy who, if he gets back to what he was, could be really good. It's also still a big risk. But as far as that potential return, I gotta be honest, I don't know if the Wizards would get anything better than that. If you're thinking that the Wizards can get a young player or a draft pick for John Wall, I mean, I just suggested Zubats, so technically there you go, there's your young player, but that was more for just salary matching purposes on an extremely desperate team. There's not a whole lot of situations like that around the league. I think OKC is worth thinking about here as well, because clearly they're willing to take on picks for money. But the question there, though, is what type of picks should the Wizards really be thinking about moving? They're not that good of a team. There's not even a guarantee they make the playoffs next year with John Wall. So, I mean, maybe you could put some protections on picks or whatever, but that'd be pretty tough. For a team that is maybe a playoff team in the Eastern Conference, dangling draft picks out there to get out of a contract, that could be pretty rough. The only other thing I could think of before I start grasping at other teams just for the sake of it pretty much is maybe the Wizards could give up one of their young players, not Denny, along with John Wall to the Pistons, and then you get Blake back, and at least Blake's contract is 1 less year than John's. But for the Pistons, it's like, would they even want to do that, even if they're getting some young player? If we look at other teams who at least need an improvement at point guard, I guess, there's Orlando, as there always is for me. They just drafted Cole Anthony. They got Markelle Fultz. Would they want to take on all of John Wall's money? I mean, if they're that desperate for just the chance at a star player, I guess. And I think if the Wizards could somehow get Aaron Gordon out of a John Wall trade, that would be a hell of an accomplishment. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't the Blazers make an offer for Gordon and the Magic turned it down? So I don't really think that one's a possibility. I mean, the Bulls need a point guard, and Otto Porter isn't expiring, but I would rather just have his money come off the books than put John Wall on my books for the next few seasons, especially when Kobe White looked pretty good to end last year. I mean, we heard rumors about Westbrook to the Knicks. Do you want to picture John Wall to the Knicks? They seem to be caught up in the Gordon Hayward stuff as of right now. and they've let go of most of their guys. So, I mean, I guess technically, if things just pivot super left out of nowhere for the Knicks, they could technically absorb like most of John Wall's money. I don't think they should do that, but they do have the cap space to take on John Wall's money way more seamlessly than kind of anybody else. And I don't picture Cleveland or the Pistons doing this. I guess the Pelicans could be a team. Like, I'm just grasping at straws here. The idea is you send Bledsoe, George Hill, and Lonzo to the Wizards. But even then, the Pelicans drafted a point guard, so I feel like they're just going to hope Kyra Lewis is the guy. And as for the T-Wolves and the Warriors, it's a no. So, I mean, if I had to assume teams that could actually trade for John Wall, I'm going to put Houston number 1 just because that rumor has actually existed. I guess number 2, do I say the Clippers just because, like, who else is going to be that desperate? 3, the Knicks, just because for at least 2 minutes there was a Westbrook-Knicks thing. But besides that, man, I just can't. I can't find a John Wall move. It's been 3 years since he was good, or just simply playing a full regular season. He's had multiple lower body injuries, and he is extremely expensive for the next 3 seasons. I mean, even if John Wall was totally healthy, that contract would still be rough, because you're going to pay over $40 million for 3 years to a guy who, at his very best, ranks where in the NBA? Definitely not top 10. Top 20? I mean, if I'm living in a world where John Wall is healthy, am I considering like Kyrie Irving healthy as well? Because if that's the case, then I'm pushing John Wall kind of to the back of the line if I start thinking about top 20 guys. But even then, that's not the reality here. So this is this could be dicey. This could be a situation where John Wall wants out, the Wizards want him out, nobody else wants him. What do you do in that scenario? You can't buy him out. That'll screw you for the next, 10 years or something. I mean, there could be a dark timeline in which the Wizards need to trade picks to get off of John Wall. I don't think that'll happen. I think if it comes down to it, the Wizards will just be like, sorry, John, you're here for 3 years. You're going to have to deal with it. But at the same time, that could make the Beal situation bad enough to where then Bradley wants out. So then you got to think about give some team a pick or 2 picks or something to take on John Wall's contract. I think the only chance the Wizards have of getting off of John Wall or for this situation to just somehow be all right is John Wall just plays well. And the Wizards can hope to be a 45-win team, and that's just kind of what you are for a few seasons, and maybe along the way one of their young guys does well. I mean, they just got Denny. I mean, he fell to them. That was kind of huge. So you hope that he becomes really good. You still got Troy Brown Jr., you got Rui. Maybe you can make some other savvy moves along the way for picks, and you can just have some sort of daylight at the end of John Wall's contract. But in terms of moving his contract and not having to give up picks and maybe even getting a nice return, I don't know, man. Anyway, like and subscribe if you want to, and that's it.